How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Infinite Sports. I'm your host, Kenneth Gruenfelder, to give you my Week 16 picks in the NFL while also recapping last night's epic Thursday night game between the Seahawks and the Rams. So let's get into that first. The Seahawks picking up the win in overtime, 38-37 in a wild game. It looked like the Rams were going to cruise to another win. Sam Darnold was turning the ball over. The Seahawks had 3 turnovers on the day. Rams didn't turn over the ball at all. So, to kind of put things into perspective with this game, so the Rams had almost 600 yards of total offense. They won the turnover battle. Okay, the Seahawks turned the ball over, like I said, 3 times to the Rams nothing. Right? And the Rams also possessed the ball for over 14 more minutes. Just over 14 more minutes than the Seahawks did. And the Seahawks still won. The Seahawks, between the fourth quarter and overtime, they outscored the Rams 24-14. And look, Matthew Stafford, even with this loss, he cements himself as the MVP, I think. I think there's no question about that. 457 yards last night, 3 touchdowns, no picks. Puka Nacua, who we'll talk about a little bit, had an unbelievable game, 12 receptions for 225 yards and 2 touchdowns, and they were missing Devontae Adams. They did rush the ball for over 100 yards in this game, but there was never really any big gains from either running backs between Kyron Williams and Blake Corum. There was a lot of, short yardage gains. But the Seahawks, they ran the ball well last night, especially Kenneth Walker. Out of nowhere, Kenneth Walker, 55-yard touchdown. They ran the ball, the Seahawks, in total for almost 171 yards, or for almost 200 yards. They ran the ball for 171 yards, 2 touchdowns, one by Charbonnet and one by Kenneth Walker. Kenneth Walker was averaging 9.1 yards per rush in this game. Where has that been all year? And the Seahawks are a team that loves to run the football. But this was an unbelievable game. The Rams were up 30-14 late in the fourth quarter. And you thought, yeah, this is going to be another win for them. And then all of a sudden, Rashid Shaheed runs back that punt return. They get the 2-point conversion. And then the Rams punt again. Seahawks go down the field. A nice play design by the Seahawks, a bootleg. Darnold finds A.J. Barner wide open in the end zone for another touchdown, and then they go for 2 again. Now, they go for 2, and it's an incompletion. It's ruled incomplete. But then all of a sudden, they review it, and they say, wait a second, that was a backwards pass, so that's a fumble, and Zach Charbonnet smartly picked up the ball in the end zone, and they ruled that that was a successful 2-point conversion then. But you go back and you watch the video, and you hear there was a whistle, so the play should have been dead. And along with that, they were getting ready to kick the ball back to the Rams, and then all of a sudden they're like, "Wait a second, no, this is actually a successful 2-point conversion because that was a backwards pass." So that was pretty confusing. And the Rams were pretty confused by that. Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford, talked about it. They weren't given a clear explanation as to why, that was the case. The play was essentially blown dead, and they were about to kick off. So all of a sudden, they're like, wait, no, it's actually a 2-point conversion when it should have been ruled right then and there. But I don't know. That's just my opinion. So, but Sean McVay afterwards, didn't make excuses. He was saying he wasn't trying to make excuses. It was just more of just, hey, like, we didn't get a clear explanation as to why they changed the ruling like that, like how it played out. So now all of a sudden it's a tie game. And then the Rams are lining up to kick a go-ahead field goal potentially towards the end of regulation, and it ends up being missed. And we go to overtime. And the Seahawks give the ball to the Rams. Rams take it right down the field. Stafford hits Puka Nacua for another touchdown. And it's 37-30. And then Sam Darnold makes his best throw of the night was, I think, down towards the sidelines to Cooper Kupp, and Cooper Kupp making a great catch, and he had a fumble earlier in this game as the Seahawks were driving, which was a momentum killer. So that was a great play. That set up the touchdown to Jackson Smith-Njigba, who was non-existent in the first half, but he got it going in the second half, and he caught the touchdown. And then another great play call for the 2-point conversion. Tight end leaks out, catches the 2, and the Seahawks win 38-37. And now they're in first place. They got a chance to clinch the division and clinch the number 1 seed. If they control their own destiny now. And all of a sudden, the 49ers have a chance to maybe take over if they win out, because they play the Seahawks the final week of the regular season, and they're right behind them. So there's a lot of changes going on with this NFC West. This is the best division in football, because you're going to see 3 teams from this division make the playoffs. But yeah, this was an unbelievable game, and it's another blown lead by the Rams. I mean, the Eagles one was a lot worse, because that was a bigger deficit for the Eagles to overcome. I mean, it all happened so quickly last night. Shaheed runs back that kick return, and then the Rams punt again, and then all of a sudden, a couple plays, and all of a sudden the Seahawks are scoring a touchdown again, and then the game is tied. But yeah, and these are 2 very good defenses, and these teams are moving the ball up and down the field, especially, late in the game. But I think it's also because, both defenses were fatigued. And the Seahawks are missing some key guys in the secondary. Guys are going down even in the game as well. But yeah, I mean, I give Sam Darnold a lot of credit for this win last night, because when he threw those 2 picks, one of them was towards the goal line or near the end zone, and I'm sitting there going, "Yep, Sam Darnold can win you games, but doesn't look like he's going to be a guy that's going to take you very far." And then all of a sudden, now this was also a team effort, because the team rallied too. I mean, Shaheed running back that kick return or the punt return, that played a huge role in it too. But when this game was evened up, and Sam Darnold throwing that touchdown pass to A.J. Barner, and then the drive, the game-winning drive in overtime, that really showed me something from Sam Darnold. This was a big game for him to win. The Rams beat him up in that playoff game last year when he was starting for the Vikings, and obviously he threw 4 picks in the first meeting. He's thrown 6 interceptions this year against the Rams. It was 4 in the previous meeting, and then there were 2 more last night. So the Rams have kind of been a problem for him, but he locked in, and he got a monkey off his back. That was a huge win for him, and that should be a huge confidence booster for him and this team going forward. And again, I look silly because the Seahawks are one of those teams that I had just missing the playoffs again. And I like their roster a lot. I was all in on the NFC North this year. All in. And it looks like 2 teams maybe will make it, or potentially maybe even 1 team, depending on how these last 3, or 3 teams can make it. We'll see. And I had the Vikings winning the division, so, But hey, I did better in some other areas. But yeah, the Seahawks are one of those teams, as the season has gone along here, quickly I was like, hey, I made a big mistake here, not putting this team in the playoffs, because this team is loaded. I know the defense got shredded last night, but, they're going up against the MVP in Matthew Stafford. But that defense has a lot of talent. This offense has a lot of talent. And Sam Darnold's playing really good football. And he is a clear upgrade over Geno Smith. Because I think if Geno Smith is quarterbacking this team, they don't have 12 wins right now. They don't. So you got to give Sam Darnold a lot of credit. Give this team a lot of credit. And I've been saying, look, they got the team that could go all the way. It's going to come down to Sam Darnold. And if Sam Darnold could play like that, well, not, ignore the 2 picks, but how he played in overtime and towards the end of that game, in the second half, they are going to be a dangerous team. They are going to be a dangerous team. And if you got to go to Seattle, listen, teams had a problem doing that in the past when you had the Legion of Boom and Russell Wilson. But if you got to go back there again, yeah, it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy. This team is dangerous. This team is dangerous. And the Rams, I'm a little worried with them because again, that's 2 games now that you should easily have won, and you just let the lead get away from you, and now they could be a wild card team. Now, I still think this team. I mean, I still have the confidence that this team can go all the way to the Super Bowl and win it, but these 2 losses to the Eagles and then to the Seahawks last night, that does leave a bad taste in my mouth. It makes me feel a little worried about them, but I still have confidence in them, and I have to because, look, I picked them to win the whole thing before the season started. Now, the other thing that I wanted to get into was the Puka Nacua situation. So Puka Nacua went on a stream earlier in the week and did an inappropriate gesture and had to apologize about it, and put the Rams kind of in a tough spot. Sean McVay had to talk to him about it, and that kind of created this whole cloud over the Rams, and even more so after the game too, because Puka made some comments on this stream also about the refs, and then he tweeted something minutes after the game and then took it down, and then Sean McVay is getting bombarded with questions over the tweet, and Sean McVay had no idea about it. And I felt bad for Sean McVay because he's getting put in a tough spot because he's like, I don't know what the situation is, so I can't answer questions if I don't know anything about this. And he just put him in a tough spot, and he said, believe me, we're gonna make sure that this gets taken care of. And I believe him because I don't think Sean McVay is going to put up with that stuff. But this is something that Puka is going to have to learn from. I think it wasn't the best for him to go on this stream, this live stream, when you have the biggest game of the year coming up. So he's going to have to learn from that. And again, you put your team in a tough spot. This team is trying to win a Super Bowl, and you're going and doing that, and then you put this black cloud over your team because of something you did, and then things that you've said on the stream, and then about the officials, and then you go and you tweet something about the officials afterwards, and then your coach has no idea what it's about because he's just coming off of a tough loss, and it kind of takes away from, and even the Amazon Prime crew were talking about it after the game. You're taking away from what a great game it was last night. So, yeah. And like I said, I believe that Sean McVay is going to take care of it. He's that kind of coach that's going to say, stop, can't do this. And supposedly, the individuals that Puka was with, they wanted to do it, they wanted to stream in the Rams facility. And Sean McVay said, no, that's not happening. So then Puka had to go to them. I think that's what ended up happening. So, yeah, not the best week for Puka Nacua, but last night, I mean, he balled out. But yeah, this is something he has to learn from, So, yeah, that wasn't a good thing to happen. But yeah, Seahawks pick up a win last night to go back to the game, and right now they're in the driver's seat for the division. And they take on the Panthers next week. And the Panthers are a weird team. I mean, out of nowhere, they could upset they beat the Rams a couple weeks ago. They could beat the Seahawks out of nowhere. And then all of a sudden, everything's level playing field again. And, the 49ers, if they went out, they have a chance. So it's going to be very interesting how this NFC West shapes out at the end of the year. But, yeah, and of course I picked the Rams last night. I was texting back and forth with people, and I was like, yeah, I mean, this looks like this could be the Rams' year. And then all of a sudden the Seahawks come back, and you're like, okay, that's maybe not when something like that happens. And it's happened twice now. Like I said, they've blown big leads. Like, you can't do that. So that's something that they're going to have to figure out. But, I mean, look, Matthew Stafford played as good of a game as you can play. So, but I saw something that CBS posted on their Instagram, and there was 4 quarterbacks this year that threw for over, they threw for over 450 yards and 3 touchdowns, and they all lost. It was Stafford, Jacoby Brissett, Flacco, and I forget who the other quarterback was. and they all lost. Like, that's crazy to think about. But Matthew Stafford, like I said, he's the MVP. He's the MVP. No question. So let's get into these games. Let's go through these games quickly. Do my picks. Already starting off 0-1. That's a bad beat. That's going to go up in the rafters from last night's game. Eagles and Commanders. Commanders getting 6.5 points. This is a game where, look, the Eagles got back on track last week, but the Commanders in the past at times have given the Eagles problems. And look, the Commanders are not good, but it's a divisional game, and I could definitely see a scenario where the Commanders cover. But I'm still going to take the Eagles. I think the Eagles defense, they get to Marcus Mariota. I think this offense continues to, get themselves going again. Maybe Saquon Barkley, who's looked better in recent weeks, he gets it going on the ground. I mean, he shredded the Commanders last year, in both regular season games and in the championship game, especially. So I'm going to take the Eagles here, even though I don't like the points. It's a big number, but I'm just going to stick with the Eagles. Bears-Packers. So Bears are going to be without Rome Odunze and Luther Burden. So it's going to be a DJ Moore game. You're going to have to rely on the tight ends and the running game, of course. And the Bears are 10-4. They've had a good year, but they just played the Packers a couple weeks ago. The Packers are going to be without Micah Parsons. They got some guys banged up. Christian Watson's banged up, but he might be playing. I know at the end of the game last night on the postgame, Ian Rappaport said Christian Watson's going to try to play. Josh Jacobs is still kind of up in the air, so that would be a big loss if the Packers don't have him. I'm going to take the Bears with the points, the home dog. They get even with the Packers here. I think this is going to be a great game. I think both quarterbacks will make plays here. But I think the Bears, they get even with the Packers, and they get the win. I mean, without Micah Parsons, too, that's just a huge loss on that defense. I mean, I think the Packers will still, get after Caleb Williams, but I'm going to take Caleb Williams and the Bears here at home in a close game. Then we got another big game. NFC South, Bucks and Panthers. Panthers 2.5-point underdogs at home. Look, the Bucks, they've really struggled. They did get back Mike Evans and Jalen McMillan last week against the Falcons, and the offense looked like it started to get it going, but that Bucks defense couldn't stop Kyle Pitts. And Kirk Cousins, another great game against them on Thursday night, and they fell short. Losing on a game-winning field goal by Zane Gonzalez. Look, the Panthers being at home, that does worry me. They almost beat the Bucks last year, like I said, in overtime when they played in Carolina last year, and then Chuba Hubbard fumbled. So, yeah, I mean, I could see the Panthers winning this game, but I'm going to say the Bucks are due to get a win here. Bounce back, get a win here. So I'm going to take them and lay the points. Then you got the Buffalo Bills, who are 10.5-point favorites, going to Cleveland to take on the Browns. Look, I've been taking the Browns with the points the last couple weeks, and they haven't covered, so I know what's going to happen this week. They're going to cover. But I've been surprised with how bad the defense has played. The Titans ran the ball all over them, and then, look, I know the Bears are good, but I thought maybe the Browns could at least keep it close. And they couldn't even... Well, the offense also couldn't put up any points either. So, but yeah, Josh Allen in this offense is rolling. That Bills defense was locked down in the second half last week against the Patriots. I think the Bills should cover against the Browns here. So I'm going to take the Bills. Then you got the Chargers and the Cowboys. Cowboys coming off of a loss against the Vikings. Chargers coming off of a win against the Chiefs. 1.5-point underdogs in Dallas. I think I'm going to take the Chargers. Chargers' offensive line's banged up, but the Cowboys, they don't have a great pass rush. And Dak struggled last week against a good Vikings defense. This is a good Chargers defense coming in. So I think the Chargers get the win here. Cowboy season is basically over. So I'm going to take the Chargers to get the win here. This game, I don't know who the starting quarterback is going to be for the Jets with, the injuries that they're dealing with right now. It might be Cook again. But the Saints have been playing better as of late. 4.5-point favorites at home. I just saw that Garrett Wilson's going to be out for the rest of the year, which I think that's the smart play. No reason to have him come back. Although I would have liked to have seen him play with, with the receivers that they have now. See how that trio of receivers would work with him, A.D. Mitchell, and John Mechie. But we're not going to see them. We'll probably see it next year with the new quarterback. So, yeah, this is a tough game for me to pick. I have the Saints right now because the Jets' defense is just, it's been bad the last 2 weeks. Against the Dolphins and then the Jags. It just. And I'm not saying that the Saints are going to do what those two teams did, but I kind of like how the Saints are playing right now. And having a young quarterback facing them, I think the Saints can win a cover. But they're down a bunch of running backs right now. The running back room is completely banged up. But, Tyler Shuck has been making plays for him. So I'm going to lean towards the Saints here. Then we got the Vikings and the Giants. I'm taking the Vikings. Actually, I like how J.J. McCarthy has played the last couple weeks, and I think this is a good game for him to continue to build off of that because the Giants' defense, last week against the Commanders, they just couldn't tackle. The Krosky Merritt touchdown run and the Terry McLaurin touchdown, those guys were wide open. It was like a parting of the seas on the Krosky Merritt touchdown. And I just think the Vikings defense is going to give Dart problems. So, yeah, I'm going to take the Vikings here. They get the win, 2.5-point favorites. All right, so then we got the Chiefs and the Titans. This game is... So there's no Patrick Mahomes. They're 3.5-point favorites. Gardner Minshew is getting the start. I did win with the 49ers last week covering that big number against the Titans, although it was close to not being the case. But then it's like when I take the Titans, then they don't cover. And the Chiefs haven't won. The Chiefs are due for a win. I keep saying that every week, and they don't win. But I think they'll win here. But are they going to win by more than 3 points? Is the thing. You know what? I originally was going to take the Titans. I think I'm going to take the Chiefs. I think I'm going to take the Chiefs to win and cover. I know the Titans have kind of looked better, and Cam Ward made some nice throws against the 49ers last week. But I'm going to take the Chiefs here. Gardner Minshew does enough. The defense, gets after Cam Ward. Chiefs win and cover. Then we got the Bengals and the Dolphins. So no Tua. It's going to be Quinn Ewers. So it's going to be interesting to see how he plays. The Bengals coming off of that loss, that shutout loss against the Ravens. I don't think it's going to get any worse than that. I think the Bengals will put up points in this game. And I think the Bengals will get the win here against the young quarterback. But I'm curious to see how Quinn Ewers does. And it's end of an era with Tua. Tua's going to be on a different team next year, most likely. They're probably going to have to eat all that dead money. I think it was like, Ian Rappaport said like $90 million in dead cap. That's a crazy number. But they never should have gave Tua that contract. And let's see what Quinn Ewers is made of. If he does well these last 3 weeks, okay, maybe he got something. But yeah, this is not a bad spot for him to be put in, Quinn Ewers, because the Bengals defense, that's a good defense to kind of get your feet wet in the NFL. So, and supposedly they've been impressed with him behind closed doors with what he's done in practice. So, let's see what he could do. But I'm still going to go with the Bengals. I think Joe Burrow in this offense obviously gets back on track. They put up points. And the defense does just enough against the young quarterback where they get the win here. And it's not a big number. It's 1.5. So it's basically a pick 'em. Falcons and Cardinals. I feel like this is a game where the over could hit. I think this is a game where both of these teams could put up a ton of points. Jacoby Brissett has put up a ton of yards since he's taken over for Kyler Murray, but the Cardinals haven't won a game. Falcons playing spoiler last week against the Bucs. I'm going to take the Falcons here, though. The Cardinals' defense is not very good. The Falcons' defense is not very good either, but I like the Falcons better in this spot here. Bijan Robinson, and we'll see if the Cardinals get Marvin Harrison back. But, I think Cousins is going to play well down the stretch here against some of these opponents, and Cardinals is a soft opponent, their defenses, so I think Cousins can have a good game here. They might be getting Drake London back too. That's also another thing to add on. And Kyle Pitts, what is he going to do in his encore performance after 3 touchdowns last week? But yeah, I like the Falcons here. And then this is one of the best games of the slate. You got the Jaguars going into Denver, 3.5-point underdogs against the Broncos, who are coming off of that big win against the Packers, and the Jags coming off of that win against the Jets. Trevor Lawrence, great game for him. This is 3.5 points is it could definitely be a field goal game, but I feel like the Jags are kind of due for a letdown here. And I really like how Bo Nix played last week. I thought that was probably the best game he's played all year. From start to finish. Because we've seen the Broncos start up very slow and then, they have a strong finish to their games. But this was a game where Bo Nix was great pretty much all throughout. So that combined with their defense, I think is going to give Trevor Lawrence fits. Also, quick aside with the Jags, they extended Jacoby Myers. I like that move. So next year, Brian Thomas, Jacoby Myers for a whole year, and Travis Hunter as your receiving core. It's a good receiving core to have. So, and then obviously Travis Etienne's had a good year coming out of the backfield. So, yeah, look, give the Jags credit, give Liam Cohen credit, and Trevor Lawrence how he's played. This is a good team. This is a good team. I'm curious to see how they're going to do in January. This could be a potential playoff preview between these two teams at some point down the line, but I'm going to ride with the home team and the Broncos and lay the 3.5. Then we got the Steelers, 8-6 Pittsburgh Steelers going into Detroit to take on the 8-6 Lions, coming off of a loss against the Rams. There's going to be no T.J. Watt again. Steelers have won 2 in a row now. After 2 weeks ago we all thought the sky was falling in Pittsburgh. Aaron Rodgers has looked good the last 2 weeks. This is going to be a tough game for Pittsburgh. I think the Lions are going to win this game. 7.5 is a big number. They're going to be without T.J. Watt again. They did a good job at limiting Devon Achane, and that's also because Tua turned the ball over, and then the offense started to fall behind. And once the Dolphins started falling behind, then they had to kind of abandon the run. But this is a game here where they're really going to have to step up, and they're going to have to get after Jared Goff, because Jared Goff, if he has time to throw the football, Steelers secondary is going to have their hands full with Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jameson Williams. And then obviously Jahmyr Gibbs can catch passes out of the backfield. Gibbs didn't really do much last week against the Rams, but I think this is a game where he could go off. The Steelers have struggled to stop the run. We talked about Buffalo against Buffalo. It was a disaster. So they're going to have their hands full. But here's the thing. Lions defense, it could be had. I think Aaron Rodgers and this offense can move the ball against them too. And this is an opponent that Rodgers knows very well. And this is a team that basically sent Aaron Rodgers packing out of Green Bay. He hasn't played the Lions since that game back in 2022 in Lambeau, right? If I'm not mistaken. Yeah. Yeah, no, he hasn't played them. But, he hasn't played him in Detroit. Definitely. He hasn't played him in Detroit. So, yeah, no, they didn't play him last year. So, yeah, this is the first time he's playing the Lions since that game. So, I don't know if there's a chip on his shoulder going into this game, because of that, but probably not. But this is an opponent he knows well. I think this is a defense that he can exploit. If the Steelers' offensive line can hold up like it did, and they got to find success running the football, which they did a little bit with Kenneth Gainwell and Jaylen Warren, and the offenses look better since they added those veteran receivers to the team. So this could be. The Steelers can't afford to fall behind, though. If they're playing catch-up, then they got no shot. But if this is a game where everything's a level playing field and the Steelers are controlling the clock and time of possession, and slowing the game down, they got a shot. But the Lions, they're a team that can put up points in bunches. Having said all that, I am going to take the Steelers with the 7.5. I think the Lions win a close game, but I think 7.5 is a lot of points. So for Aaron Rodgers, so I'm going to take the Steelers with the 7.5. Then we got the Texans and the Raiders. So it looks like it's going to be Kenny Pickett again. Texans, they've won 6 in a row. This defense against the Raiders, who just got shut out by Philadelphia, another good defense they're going to have to go up against. They just got shut out in Philly. I think the Texans win this game very easily, and they cover this 14.5. The Raiders, to me, they don't really have a chance in this game. I think C.J. Stroud will play well. They'll put up points. And it wouldn't shock me if this was another shutout because that's just how poor the Raiders have been this year. Then we got a good Sunday night game. Patriots, 2.5-point underdogs against the Ravens on the road. Going back and forth with this game, the Ravens need this game. All right, the Patriots, well, the Patriots need this game too. If they lose and the Bills win, then all of a sudden, this AFC East is up for grabs. I think I'm going to side with the home team and take the Ravens. Lamar Jackson played a little bit better last week against the Ravens or against the Bengals. The defense, I think, is starting to maybe come around. And if that's the case, maybe they give Drake May a hard time. We'll see. I think it's going to be a good game. I think it's going to be close, but I'm going to take the home team. I'll take the Ravens. And then we got an interesting Monday night game. So we got the Colts, 6.5-point underdogs at home against the Niners. Phillip Rivers making his second start in his comeback. Look, I think I talked about this game a little bit last time. This is not the same 49ers defense that we've seen in the past. I think the Colts can do some damage offensively against it. I think Jonathan Taylor, who's kind of calmed down a little bit, I think this is a game where he bounces back. And I think Rivers, he protects the football. He's smart with it. He does what the defense gives him. And I think the Colts keep it close. Let's see how this defense does against the Niners. They're going to have to deal with Christian McCaffrey and George Kittle. And Brock Purdy's played some good football late. So I think this is going to be a good game. I think the Colts keep it close. But I think this is another one where I'm like, I kind of got to side with the Niners here. But it's going to be interesting because Phillip Rivers played, when he was with the Colts last time, Lucas Oil Stadium wasn't completely filled up because it was the COVID season. But that's not going to be the case here. That crowd is going to be going nuts. And the Colts really need this game. The Niners want to win this game because, then they still have a chance at this division in the NFC West. So, but yeah, I think I'm going to take the Colts here with the 6.5 points. And they probably won't cover because of that. And I'm still kicking myself that I didn't take the Colts last week. But again, 44-year-old quarterback, hasn't played in 5 years, comes off the couch. And the Seahawks are a really good defense. So, but it is what it is. So to go through it again, taking the Eagles minus 6.5, Colts or Bears plus the 1.5, Bucks minus 2.5, the Bills minus 10.5, Chargers plus the 1.5, Saints minus 4.5, Vikings minus 2.5, Chiefs minus 3.5, Bengals minus 1.5, Falcons minus 2.5, Broncos minus 3.5, Steelers plus 7.5, Texans minus 14.5, Ravens minus 2.5, and the Colts plus the 6.5. So those are my picks. Probably going to get 7 or 8 like I always do. I'll still go over them. Maybe I make some last second changes. We'll see. But let me know what you guys think about the games. Who do you think is going to win this week? What were your guys' thoughts on the Rams-Seahawks game from last night? And as always, everybody, make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the video, to the channel. Make sure to follow us on the social media platforms in the description below. And wherever I get your podcast, you can follow us as well. Just look up Infinite Sports and you'll find us there. And as always, I'm your host, Kenneth Grunfelder, signing off. Have a good one, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Take care.